Hi, Nick Dogan, North State Law. We safeguard your professional license so you can get back to business. Today, we're going to talk a little bit more about electricians in the great state of North Carolina. So, the question is, who are the most likely people to file a complaint against an electrician in North Carolina? So I really boiled down this to about four people. And so we're going to talk about the top four people that are most likely to file a complaint against an electrician. And I don't think any of these are going to come as a surprise to anybody. But the first one is clients. And you could do the best work in the world, and some people are not going to be satisfied. And that's just the reality of the situation. It doesn't matter what you do, somebody somewhere at some point in time in your career is likely to have a problem with it. I've had people in various licensed professions. They get hit with somebody like that a first couple, months of doing their job, and they might not have another problem with somebody for years and years or decades. I've had other people that have been doing stuff for 30, 40 years, never had a problem before, and then something pops up. They didn't do anything wrong, but they just ran across that wrong person. You know what I mean? So it happens to the best of us. But the biggest thing when you're dealing with clients in any way, shape, or form is you got to have really good contracts. You want to make sure that when you have an estimate, it's clearly stated, this is an estimate for services. You lay out what services you'll be providing for them, what the amount's going to be, if there's going to be material, what material that's going to be, and how much that's going to be. You might not be covering materials. Maybe they decided they want to get the materials themselves. You want to make sure that that's clear, clearly laid out in your estimate. And then you also want to make sure that's in your final contract as well, or if you do an estimate saying, X, Y, and Z, the estimate is provided to the individual. And then, maybe you could have some additional language in there in the same document saying, like if everything looks good, the individual can sign and become an enforceable contract. There could be some language to effectuate the enforceability of that as an actual contract. But at the very least, you start out with an estimate. Obviously, you want to be clear about that and clear about what it was all in there. If you go the traditional route and you go estimate, and then you have a more detailed structure of a contract as far as more particularities on, this is for just what is stated above. It doesn't include anything else. If you want a change order on something, then that is going to involve X, Y, Z, and you're more specific on that. That's a good idea because, an estimate's typically not going to be something that's going to be 2, 3, 4 pages. It's usually going to be 1, maybe 2 pages, depending on the scope of the work. But when you get somebody that's going to actually agree to put money in your hand in exchange for your services and the materials that you're going to use, then you want a more in-depth contract there. And that should help you further along because, like I said before, you could do grade A work from the beginning of your career to the end, and you're likely to run across that person that's just never satisfied with anything. And if you have a really clearly laid out estimate, and then you have a clearly laid out enforceable contract, and you do the work anywhere in between, then you're going to have a pretty good chance of being successful against any complaint that's filed with the electrical board in North Carolina. So that's the first one, is clients. Second one, and this is probably in most frequency. So most frequently I see it with clients. Second most frequently I see it with inspectors. And that's going to be your county or city inspectors, and they're going to come out to a job. And, usually what upsets them is that the inspections are not called in timely. So that's going to be the biggest bugaboo. Obviously, they're going to be upset if the work is not done to their satisfaction. So that's usually another thing. So you want to make sure that, A, you have a permit and you pull a permit. That is number one, that you're the licensed individual. If you're the qualifier for the company and you're running the job, you pull the permit. Okay. Second one is you do the quality of the work, obviously. And then third is you call in your inspections in a timely manner. Usually you want to get it done within about 10 days of when the project has come to conclusion. If you can get it done sooner than that, then fantastic. If there is a reinspection needed, then you're going to want to call that in timely as well. Nobody wants a reinspection, but unfortunately, sometimes that stuff just happens. I think that sort of thing, from my understanding, happens to the best of electricians out there. So just make sure that your inspections are called in timely as well, because if you don't and that's sitting out there, then that's going to upset an inspector when they eventually find out about it. And then that could lead to a complaint with the board, which obviously we want to avoid. Third one that I've seen not super frequently, but a decent bit to put it on my top four list is competitors. They might be a little bit upset that you're the new guy in town, or maybe they are the new person in town and you're at the established business and they're trying to, make your life a little bit more difficult, and they file what they might perceive to be a legitimate complaint. And maybe it is, maybe it isn't, maybe it's frivolous. And on this particular thing, the only thing you can do is keep doing quality work. Have happy customers, have happy inspectors, get along as best as you can with people that work for you, and try your best to get along with people that you might perceive as competition, and they might perceive you as competition. At the end of the day, everybody's providing a service. They're trying to do a good job. So, maybe there's a mutually beneficial arrangement that if everybody gets along, they can explore. But if there's that animosity, that's where complaints can kind of arise and cause some friction with your business. And you just want to best to avoid that. And like I said, sometimes people are people, they're going to do people things. And sometimes that people things involve filing a complaint with the electrical board for sometimes no good reason. So you kind of be careful out there. Just do your best to get along. Everybody love everybody, right? So fourth one that I've seen, and I've seen this kind of rarely, but it would be like with ex-employees, including but not limited to ex-business partners. Sometimes when that happens, it's not on good terms. And then as a result of that, somebody might be going into and becoming a competitor, like number three. And as a result of them leaving, they might think that same things weren't done correctly, and then, or they didn't do something correctly on their way out, try to blame it on you, file a complaint. So that unfortunately has happened before. It again is not very frequent. It doesn't happen very often. I think I might have only seen it like once or twice where something like that's occurred, or even heard about something like that occurring. So those are the top four things. I think most of them are pretty avoidable. Some of them, unfortunately, aren't. But I think the biggest takeaway from this is to just put yourself in the best position to be successful against a complaint. Because if it is something that's frivolous and there's nothing else there, there's no other violations. Like say an investigator for the board starts coming around and they're investigating this. Well, if they see something else, there's nothing to say that they can't, file a complaint themselves for this other thing, you know? So you want to not give them anything else, and you want to be able to deal with just that. Say it's a frivolous complaint, you just want to be able to deal with that and be done with it. So just put yourself in the best position possible to avoid any sort of discipline and hopefully get that complaint dismissed against you. So I hope that was helpful. If you have any questions, you are always welcome to give my office a call or text. That's at 919-521-8810. Just check out the blogs on my website, northstatelawfirm.com, or our YouTube channel, which you're obviously familiar with, and see if I can have not already answered it there. And then if you still can't find what you're looking for, like I said, give my office a call, 919-521-8810. We get text on there as well, and you get that free 15-minute discovery call with a member of my staff. Thank you so much for keeping the lights on, North Carolina, and have a fantastic day. Bye-bye.